What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Mingo, and this is Mingo Boys Nerd Stuff. You know, a streamer can get away with crappy, choppy video, but the one thing they can't get away with is crappy audio. I'm going to show you the settings that I use in OBS and the equipment that I use to make you sound great. Stay tuned. Now let me start you off by giving you a little bit of insight of what the equipment is that I use. I'm currently using a condenser microphone that I got off of Amazon.com. The brand that I'm using is called a Florian. I believe Newer makes a similar model. It's a basic condenser XLR mic. I paid like $35 for it. That, like I said before, is an XLR mic, so I have an XLR cable. That needs to get plugged into a phantom power supply, and the one that I got is an M48 48 volt power supply by Mackie. I also picked that up at Amazon. I believe the price tag on that is about $60 US. From there's another XLR mic, XLR2 3.5 millimeter, which is plugged in to the 3.5 millimeter line-in jack in the back of my computer. Now I don't have anything fancy set up. I don't have a mixer, and I'm not using any software solutions for mixing my mic as well. That will be in the future, and I haven't experimented enough to give you any knowledge on that. But I'm going to let you know what it is that I use just in OBS, and I think that they've been working for me pretty good. Now I'm going to assume at this point you've already been streaming and you already have your microphone hooked up to the computer, and you do have the audio from your mic going in through OBS. And I'm just going to go ahead and show you just some simple filters that I use to give it a little bit more of that professional quality sound. Now I understand that I may not be a professional in audio, but I've been doing this for a little bit, and people have been saying that I sound pretty good and they want to know what my settings are, so I'm just going to go ahead and show you what I use. Now in OBS you'll have the mixer over here in the corner, wherever it is that you put it. Mine is in this corner, and you'll see your audio levels going up and down. The first thing I want to go into is to show you where your levels should be. As you're speaking, you'll see that over here it'll be green for most of it, and then there's this little yellow spot over here, and then up here, if you get into that, it'll turn red and your microphone will start peaking. You don't want it to go up into the red, because at that point you're too loud and your audio will clip. Basically is just peak and it won't sound very good at all. Now usually when you open up OBS for the very first time, this will be set at 0 decibels. That is okay if you have a very low microphone, but as you can see, the louder I speak, the farther into the red it gets, and it sounds pretty nasty up there. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to bring the volume down to about -3 decibels, and that will help control the loudness of your voice and keep it in the yellow so that your audio doesn't clip. Now let's go ahead and talk about the filters that I use. So when you go over here to where your mic aux levels are, you're going to hit the little cog there and click on filters. I'll move this over so you can see what I'm doing. Adding a filter is simple. All you got to do is come down to the little plus sign here and click it. There are others here that I will not speak about. The only ones that I'm concerned about are compressor, noise gate, and noise suppression. The first filter I'm going to talk about is noise suppression. When you click on that, you're going to be able to see this is measured in decibels, okay? And there's a little slide bar here that you can move up and down. Mine is currently set at -30 decibels. What noise suppression effectively does is that it removes any unwanted background noise. For example, I have a ceiling fan up above me and my computer is whirring in the background. I don't want any of that to be picked up by my microphone. So I set it at -30, which just happens to be the default because I did play around with it a little bit. And when I'm talking, you really don't hear that stuff in it. Now you will have to mess with this setting depending on what your ambient noise situation is. If you live in a city or you have a room that's next to, that has a window that's next to the street, and you have some nonsense going on outside, you'll have to just go ahead and set this somewhere, record a little bit of yourself, listen to it, see if you can hear it in the background. If you can hear it, then you'll raise this up to another setting. Basically, it has to be louder than this for it to be picked up. So if Juan Pepe is out there banging his drums and talking about the sky is falling, then you're not going to be able to pick him up if he's at -30, if you have yours set up at -24. Now the second filter I'm going to talk about is the noise gate. Basically what this does is that it turns your mic on and off when it's not in use. Now I know what you're saying, I'm streaming, of course I'm using it, but let me explain. Basically what's happening is that while I'm talking, the microphone is on, and when I stop talking, the microphone shuts off. You don't hear anything. Now up here, the close threshold, which I have set at negative 32 decibels, basically means that when I stop talking, it's going to shut off when it gets down below negative 32 decibels. Now the open threshold is the complete opposite. I have that set at negative 26 decibels. Basically, my voice has to be louder than negative 26 decibels for it to turn on again. Now these three settings down here, the attack time, the hold time, and the release time, which are all measured in milliseconds, are all very important as well. These are set currently at default. You may have to mess with them depending on your situation, but basically let me explain what they are. Now my attack time is set at 25 milliseconds. Basically what the attack time is how long a sound has to be active for it to begin. So basically at 25 milliseconds, if it detects a sound that's longer than 25 milliseconds, it turns on. Now the hold time is set at 200 milliseconds. Basically what the hold time is that how long the microphone is going to stay active after it starts. In other words, if you set this too low, the thing is going to try to turn off after every word. So it's just going to keep that little momentum going to continuously listen to you so that it can pick up all of your audio. Now the release time is set at 150 milliseconds, and what that does is measure how long the audio has stopped before it decides to turn off. It lends itself for a nice natural sounding voice so that it's not clipping the end of the last word that you say. Now the third filter I'm going to talk about is the compressor. Basically what the compressor does is that if it senses your audio levels to be too high, it's going to compress it down so that your voice doesn't peak. This first setting up here, which is the ratio, is basically letting the system know how much to compress your audio when that threshold is reached. If I set it at 10, then it's going to compress my audio 10 to 1. I like to set mine at about 8. 8 seems to work for me, and I'm leaving it right there. Now the threshold is where you set the volume at that you want it to actually start working. So if my voice was to get up above negative 18 decibels, then it's going to go ahead and start to compress my voice so that it can keep it within the spectrum and it won't peak and you won't hear any clipping. This is very important to mess with. You just have to see what works best for you. Mine currently is set to negative 18, and I find that that's pretty good. Now the attack time and the release time in milliseconds does do this exact same thing as in the noise gate. I find that 6 and 60 is pretty much okay for me, so I leave it there, and I think those are the default settings as well. Now what output gain is it can boost or reduce the volume on your mic. Let's say you have a mic that's crappy and it's really low and people are complaining that they can't hear you and it's right in front of your mouth, then you might want to mess with this to bring it up so that it can boost your voice and people can hear you more clearly. And those are the 3 filters that I use for my mic. Now let's talk a little bit about your audio levels and the different settings you might want to consider when you have multiple audio sources. I've already spoken to you about mic aux. That should be set at negative 3 decibels because it should be the loudest thing that people hear, because you want people to hear what you say, and you don't want anything in the background to cloud or to muddy the sound so that they can't hear what you're saying, because I've been in plenty of streams where the music is just blaring and they're talking and I have no idea what they're saying. And I just turn around and I leave. Or if I like the guy, I let him know, hey, your music's too loud, man. I have no idea what the hell you're saying. Now, with that said, if you have an Elgato Stream Deck plugged in, it will have its own audio source as well. If you're streaming from a console, I like to set that myself at a negative 12 decibels. I find that that's the perfect level for people to be able to hear the game in the background whenever there's any dialogue or any other sound effects. And but it will not overshadow my voice as I speak. Now the audio desktop is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit dynamic. You just have to kind of play with it as you're streaming, because if I'm playing some YouTube music or if I have Spotify on in the background, I also do not want it to overshadow what I'm saying. I want it to be around the same level as my Elgato. That way the two of them are in conjunction and my voice is dominant over the other two audios. The only exception would be that if I'm speaking to somebody, let's say in Discord, or if I'm speaking to somebody and I want you guys to hear what they say to me, I will increase that to negative 3 decibels so that we're on the same level and it sounds like we're having a normal conversation. Other things to consider if you have sound effects like I do, if your desktop audio is set too high and you hit a button for that audio clip, it's going to be too loud and people aren't going to be able to hear what it is that you're saying. So I like to keep that down by negative 12 as well. Now, if you have it set the way I recommend, this is more or less what it's going to look like. Desktop audio -12, mic aux -3, and Elgato -12 as well. You might have to play with it, you know, go on a test stream, have somebody listen to your test stream, tell you something's too loud, something's too soft, I can't hear you, I can't hear it, I don't know what's happening in the background. And that way you can get your audio levels perfect and you can present your stream in a more professional manner when it comes to audio. Because like I said earlier, people can get away with choppy video, but audio needs to be on point. So there you have it, folks. It's not as complicated as it sounds. Hopefully I went through enough steps for you to follow along. Like I said earlier, I'm not a professional. However, people have complimented me on my audio and they wanted to know how I do it. So I figure I put something together that way you guys can follow along. Very basic settings, anything that's already available in OBS, no extra mixers, no voice meter banana, no voice meter potato, although something like that might come along in the future. For right now, I think I'm good, and you guys seem to think I'm good as well. Now, if you like this video, go ahead and click like, leave me a comment below, let me know if it was helpful or if it was not helpful, or if there was something else that you didn't quite get that I might be able to clarify for you in the comments. Now do me a favor, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon below so that you know when new videos go up. They will be going up every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Also, go ahead and catch me on Twitch. I'm live every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 9 p.m. Eastern to between 11 and midnight, depending on where I'm at the game. Now, thank you so much for sticking around. Until next time, peace.
Something to be afraid of.
There's something to be afraid of. Falco! Oh my God! Where'd you come from? No! Why are you sucking on my neck like some ex-girlfriend? Come on, let's get out of here. Jesus Christ. Holy crap. Falco, what's going on? So good, didn't announce your life. Well, damn, my Me6 is down in this one. Really? Is it? I'm sorry. What's up, Falco? How are the things? How are the things that do the things?